This is Dream Chasers, episode 18, with Scott Royal Smith. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Adam Carswell, and welcome to Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. On Dream Chasers, we interview individuals with supernatural amounts of potential based on early success in their careers. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's get straight to the interview. Hey guys, this is Adam Carswell, and today I'm joined by Scott Royal Smith. Scott is an asset protection attorney and the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. He's originally from Houston, Texas, and now resides in the beautiful city of Austin, Texas. Scott, thank you for being on the show today. And do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
Yeah, great to be here with you guys here today. I work with about 2,000 real estate investors all over the country. We currently protect around $4.2 billion in assets for everybody, and we specialize in structures that streamline everybody's operations and offer, top-level asset protection as well as anonymity using the Series LLC and Delaware statutory trusts for real estate investors. It'd be great to share with you here today about everything I know. I'm an open book for you. Anything you want to know, feel free to ask.
Great, and I do want to give a quick background on how I ran into Scott. He's been on a few other episodes of podcasters that I follow, one in particular who I've had on recently, MC Lobshare, and I really liked the information that he had to share, and I thought today would be a great time for him to also open up our eyes to the legal world and how we can protect ourselves better, but also just to learn about him and his journey and how he's kind of gotten to where he's at. So let's get straight to it. Scott, how long have you been at Royal Legal Solutions? I know you're the owner, so how long has this process been going on?
Yeah, so about 5 years. I used to do litigation full-time, suing insurance companies, finding out that insurance is actually pretty bad for protection because insurance companies, when the claims get big, they deny coverage, right? That's inherently what they're in the business of, is collecting premiums, denying coverage. Come to find out that a lot of real estate investors think that they have insurance and so they're protected, right? And the fact is that you're about 80% protected. And that's where, I launched Royal Legal Solutions, was to say, being a real estate investor myself and working exclusively with real estate investors and business owners, was able to come up with solutions that says, all right, well, let's what do we need to do in terms of a company structure that we add with the insurance to move people from 80% protected to 100% protected?
So with that being said, when did you first realize, because I know you do have an extensive background in this industry, when did you first realize that this business was something that you wanted to take to the next level?
Well, it was the moment that I ended up getting onto my first podcast, actually, with Bigger Pockets, and then got flooded with people who are saying, hey, man, I've been looking for years to be able to find somebody that's like you, that understands real estate investing, can operate, in any state that I'm operating in, and has like this holistic approach from bottom to top, from banking, insurance, et cetera, to be able to help me. Those are the types of phone calls I was getting, and got an overwhelming response. I said, oh man, well, there's a huge need here for this type of information and these types of strategies. Especially just given how much misinformation is actually on the internet. If you just start poking around about real estate law and tax online, you just find all kinds of conflicting opinions and information out there. And I think people really enjoy being able to come to one source that has definitive answers to exactly what they should be doing as real estate investors.
Yeah, and that's great to know that we can count on you as being that one source. In regards to your interview with Bigger Pockets, though, when exactly was that, and how have you seen that transform where you were to where you're at now?
Yeah, that was years ago. Doing that, and that was, originally when I was in the very beginning of trying to put together all of the systems, right? And so now over time, what was originally just asset protection, and how to use the Series LLC structure, forming it in Texas, or Delaware or Nevada, and using it everywhere in the country. Now has turned into, how do we integrate the protections with estate planning to make sure those are going to be functioning perfectly for people, and you can set up your estate plan once and it'll be good for the rest of your life. And how do we incorporate using solo 401ks to shelter out $55,000 a year in pre-tax dollars so you can, loan that money to yourself or use it better for investing. And so now it just was originally about protection. Now it's turned into a company that offers a suite of services that are all synergistically used together And that's really what's led to the explosive growth that we've had. I think in this last year, I think we've tripled in our size of revenue.
I can't remember if you already mentioned it. How long has the Series LLC structure been around? And can you just tell us more about the basic fundamentals of it? Because it's definitely something that I'm interested in. And I think there's a lot of information there that people should know.
Yeah, well, it's been around for about 20 years. You can form it in about 15 different states and then use it anywhere. Just like Delaware LLCs, you form them in Delaware and use them wherever you want to. You can do the same thing with the Series LLC. And the basics of it is that you can form one LLC with one EIN number, one bank account, one set of accounting records, and then you get to create for free individual child series of the Series LLC. Each child series is treated just as if it's its own LLC. Can do everything an LLC can do, but they're free to create and there's no additional cost to create them or for ongoing costs every year. So essentially, by creating one Series LLC, you can create an infinite number of child series. And everything still stays very simplified with your operations, but you get this infinite expandability at no additional cost, which helps compartmentalize all of your liability to ensure that if the worst case scenario happens, right, and you end up with a lawsuit, hopefully your insurance would cover you, but if it doesn't, you'll lose little to nothing from the lawsuit because of the protections of the Series LLC.
Right, and what I like about that is it's what's the right way to put this? It feels unlimited. Like you could essentially just keep growing and growing and growing it without having to run into any type of growth issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you just keep scaling, right? So for our clients, all they do is they go out and they identify great deals, they close on those deals in whatever way they can to get the best possible financing. Usually that's going to be maxing out all of your first 10 conforming loans so you get the best interest rates. Then we use a land trust to be able to move the asset into the Series LLC structure. So what that looks like is client closes on the deal, then they contact us. We take care of the transfer of moving the property from their name into a land trust that's owned by the Series LLC. And we do that because it accomplishes the anonymity of ownership that we want, which stops lawsuits before they ever start. And it avoids the due on sale clause issues. So at that point, all the client has to do is find deals. We take care of all the back end paperwork and the transfers, and then they just keep track of the money associated with each property as part of their accounting, just the expenses and income on their QuickBooks through some simple QuickBooks tagging or an Excel spreadsheet. And it keeps their life simple and able to be focused on investing instead of trying to do all the paperwork shuffle in the back end. That most people don't want to do, or that it just gets complicated, or just actually just not done, right? So we take care of all that for them.
That's great to know. So what is your why behind all this? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's really few things that are actually better than fundamentally changing the way people are able to live their lives, right? I mean, the way I view what I do is I give people a lot of power and security around the ability for them to have confidence that, they're building their real estate so they can leave their job or so they can retire. And without having the protections in place, they're actually in a pretty weak scenario because if something really bad happens, they're thrown back into a job or out of retirement, which is horrible. By protecting the assets, by hiding the ownership and compartmentalizing everyone and doing it efficiently so it doesn't become burdensome to their life, what I'm really giving people is the ability to have peace in their life as well as the ability to create the freedom that they've always wanted.
Right. And so now it seems like there are countless positives to working with Royal Legal Solutions, especially since not only are you an attorney, but you're also an investor. You understand what it's like coming from the shoes of your clients, basically. What are the downsides to the industry and the environment that you find yourself in on a daily basis?
So one of the downsides is actually, just a product of the environment that actually leads to our success, which is there's so much misinformation on the internet, right? Or that stuff that's like half true. There's also a barrier I run into time and time again, which is not all experts, quote unquote experts or attorneys or CPAs are made equal. That they're not, a lot of them aren't real estate investors themselves. They don't have the deep knowledge and niche expertise about how these systems work together, or what that can play out to be like, right? So one example that I hear a lot about is, hey, you can't use a Series LLC in a number of different states, right? So it's not recognized in my state, and that's actually just not true, right? It's because the Series LLC, just like the Delaware LLC, you can form it in one state and use it everywhere. There's a long history of states recognizing each other's laws, and there's no case law even challenging the Series LLC over the last 20 years fundamentally as an entity structure, which should give us a lot of encouragement to think that, hey, this is actually a really strong structure, because nobody even tries to challenge it, even though if they did, they would get a good payday for doing so. But then, some attorneys out there will be like, well, we don't know how it's going to be treated because there's no court cases. I'm like, well, we can kind of figure that out, guys, that it's been in thousands of court cases in over 20 years and nobody's tried to, and they would get paid if they did. And these guys are money motivated to challenge anything they possibly can, because that's what sharky litigation attorneys do. So let's go ahead and just think that it's probably incredibly strong for that purpose.
What industry leaders and role models are you inspired by?
I'm actually inspired by all kinds of just weird stuff. Like I got inspired by Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day.
Okay.
And I find like some of my best thinking actually comes from things that are outside of the box that I live in, right? So of course I've read every book and studied everything that there is that I can get my hands on that's about real estate or that's about asset protection, right? Because that's the world that I really live in. But what I found is that you max out how much information you can get inside of your own circle, and then that's just as good as the information that's into that industry. So you need to open yourself up to a wide variety of information that's outside of the bubble that you live in every day to really have cutting edge thinking. So a good example of that would be this book that I'm reading right now that's on Lean Six Sigma. And you'd be like, why in the world are you reading a book that's about manufacturing principles? And the reason is because the same methodology and the way that you would think through manufacturing and the way that you try to find out where the sticking points are that are causing you a ton of time, that are your inefficiencies. Instead of looking at those as problems, you look at them as opportunities to exploit, because if you can exploit that opportunity, it makes you better than every other manufacturer that's out there. That's also true in every business that we run into if you view it through that lens. And so the more lenses that you can have to be able to analyze problems, the better off you're going to be as an investor, a business owner, entrepreneur, whatever it's going to be, right? And that's really what it comes down to with asset protection for real estate investors. Also happens to be the most elite type of asset protection you can possibly get. So I actually have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners that will call me up to say, how should I be structuring my business correctly? So that way I can have a shell company that I do all my operations through to make sure that I'm protected and that nobody can touch my money. And, I also want an asset holding company because I understand that rich people don't own things. They have companies that own things. And I want to start living that kind of lifestyle with that kind of protections in place to know that my worst case scenario, if I ever get sued, is I lose little to nothing. And then most likely, the people that are suing me are not even going to file because it looks like I qualify for food stamps because it's in place. It's like, if you want that kind of level of lifestyle, like I'm your guy, right? But that's because I enjoy that kind of problem,
right.
Solving it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, as of right now, I can tell you in my mind, you're pretty much my guy when the time is right. So that's very reassuring to hear. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years?
So the next 3 years, I'd like to be down at like 10% body fat, 55% heart rate, or 55 beats per minute heart rate. I'd like to be running my first marathon, I think, for next year. I'd like to have, over 2 million a year in passive income per year. That would be great if I could do that. And, really, I think my focus will probably come and probably be sticking with Royal Legal Solutions for a while here, as well as doing my real estate investing, just because, we've just really, I feel like in a lot of ways, we've just kind of started. Even though we've had this huge explosive growth, it's just, we're really just at the very beginning of this much larger, more powerful journey. And we're finding really great people along the way that want to be a part of it. And those people are our clients. And they're getting, all of the high tech, cutting edge types of strategies that I come across as part of being a part of our network. with that. So
exactly. Yeah. That's also, I think what caught my eye in regards to what the business that you're building is because it was 5 years old or less. And so again, what you've been able to achieve in the past 5 years is pretty remarkable. And I think definitely a forecast for those dreams that you have coming in the next 3 years. I also like that you mentioned the 10% body fat and getting in shape and whatnot, because honestly, I've asked that question quite a few times, and I think you're actually the first person to ever tell me a physical goal. So that's cool.
yeah, man. Well, it's one of those deals, right? Like I started working all the time, like 6 days a week and pushing in 60 hours a week. And I've been doing that for the last year. And I like over the last like 4 months, I've gotten back into jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and training every single day, except Sundays for it. And I've just noticed that it's like, oh, okay, well, that's good. I'm in better shape now. But like, I'm not really doing the fundamental things that really drive like the big payoffs, It says I'm going to have long-term health and investment in myself, just like I have an investment in my company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really easy thing to do, which is think that like, oh, the company has to come first, right? And I really come second. And instead trying to think of like a company as an extension of you, that in the healthier you become, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, the stronger your relationships become in your life, the stronger your company becomes. And looking at this whole game of business and helping people as more holistic instead of, one thing being everything to us, Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That makes 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm looking forward to this question here. So what advice do you have for aspiring legal professionals? And can you give an example of something that you wish you would have done differently looking back? And when I say that, aspiring legal professionals, there's a lot of young upcoming lawyers that, in comparison to you, might be heading down a different path, maybe more the traditional path. So what advice do you have for those young lawyers to transform their futures to become the next Scott Royal Smith?
Yeah, actually, I have attorneys that hit me up like every day wanting to be a part of what we do. And so I would say the first thing is that if you're on that path is to reach out directly to me and to Royal Legal Solutions. And there's probably going to be some ways that we're going to be able to introduce to you. That's just a different way of thinking about how you can help people and use your legal knowledge to become vastly more profitable than you would ever be inside of a brick and mortar traditional law firm, just because those aren't very good businesses. My business is much better than their business, which means that we have all kinds of different opportunities that are much more exciting for people. And I would say that, even if it's not, looking and having, me coach you or mentor you in that way, like I'm doing for so many other attorneys right now, I would just encourage everybody to like first decide what it is that you really want. Then decide, it's me practicing law going to get me that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot happens to a lot of attorneys is that they went to law school because they think that it was going to buy them respect or it was going to buy them high wages. And the reality is that you don't get either one of those, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that so you can end up with a field that has, the highest rates of drug and alcohol abuse and all kinds of other horrible things associated with it. And it's because people have, been sold a bill of goods. So young attorneys are sold a bill of goods of what it means to be an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we can get back to an era where we say, well, how can I take what I love to do naturally and then use all of this amazing legal training and thinking that I've had, and how can I synergize those together to be able to help people? Then you'll find like a solution that's going to make you profitable, because that's the fundamentals of capitalistic, type of thinking. I was like, I'm going to solve problems for people and I'm going to use my knowledge to do it, while, making your life great, instead of depending on somebody else to try to do it for you, which is essentially what you're doing when you're going to work in another firm.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's great to know. Great to hear from you. So hopefully we have some individuals reach out. Can you give an example of something that you wish you would have done differently looking back?
So many things, man. I make mistakes every single day. Like I'm making mistakes right now, but the point is you can either look at these things as a mistake, or you can say, yeah, that's a really expensive piece of education. And then like spending the time to read books and talk to people becomes really cheap. Because you might think, oh, I don't have time to get all the education to just educate myself because look how busy I am working. Until you're like, well, probably over the last 3 months, I've wasted $100,000 to be able to figure out this piece that if I just would have gone to that convention and spent the weekend there, I would have learned all of that, and not made those mistakes. So I would say that's actually the biggest piece for me probably is, thinking I can figure it all out on my own. I do really good at it, but it's not even close to figuring it out on your own. Is actually just finding out what the industry best practices are and everything from marketing to bookkeeping to your personnel to HR to real estate, and just adopting those and then iterating off of that instead of trying to figure it out on your own.
I couldn't agree more. So we've got 3 fun questions here for you. I don't know if you had a chance to kind of take a deep thought into what we're about to get into, but the 3 questions are: what is your favorite word in the dictionary? What is your favorite professional sport? And what is your favorite country?
Yeah, I would say lugubrious. I have no idea why. I just remember learning it from back in middle school. I'm not even sure what exactly it means. I think it's dreary or sad or something like that. But it's the first one that came to mind.
Do you know how to spell it?
I think it's legubrious, something like that.
Okay.
And then my favorite sport, I'm a huge MMA fan, and I used to compete in MMA actually. Okay. So I used to do kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, all that. I still love it. I still train it. So it's by far my favorite thing to do with that. I don't fight anymore, obviously, but it's really, really fun.
Yep.
Sorry, what was the last one?
Yeah. Favorite country.
Oh, favorite country. One of the best lessons I've actually learned in life was living down in Mexico for a year. I traveled out there after I got out of high school, and I didn't want to go to college at all. I thought college was stupid and a waste of time and money, and I was I'm not going to go. So my mom was super crafty, being the Southern belle that she is, and she's like, "Well, why don't you just go down to Mexico? You've always wanted to learn Spanish. Go down there." And then pretty soon I was like, "Well, how am I going to learn the Spanish?" I was like, "I better enroll in the university down here and start taking classes to learn how to do it." And within 6 months, I had accumulated 23 hours of college credit. And became fluent in Spanish. And so being fully bilingual, I don't use it for really anything now besides just fun. But one of the things that I learned from that experience was how crafty it is to be a mother, to be well, I know that's not the thing you want. So let me find out what it is you do want. And then, I'm going to craft a way that we both win on this thing. And then also another piece of living down there was just the huge cultural power behind how important is family and community, and what does that actually mean, and what is the type of security that brings. Because right now in the United States, I feel a lot of people, we have these really disenfranchised groups of friends, really disenfranchised families living all over the place. It's hard to get together with people as frequently as you like. And down there, they really prioritized it. Our social time with the people we cared about was our most important thing, and everything else came second to that. And there's just a tremendous amount of power that comes from that, because most, humans being social animals, when we don't have that, we start to have all of these feelings of depression and anxiety and isolation and bad habits that form because of that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something to think about, of saying why do we have 1 in 3 people on antipsychotic medication, or it could be the fact that maybe there's something fundamentally broken with how we're living and how we're associating with each other, and look at countries like that don't have the same type of issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely true. Community and family will take people further than they can even fathom.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Scott. Well, it's been great having you on here. I've had 20 other questions fly through my head as we've been on this interview, but I guess we'll save those for another time. Yeah,
thanks for having me on, brother. I really appreciate it. And I think we have some actual special giveaways that we were planning on doing for you guys.
Really?
Yeah, so we have it at the royallegalsolutions.com/dreamchasers. We're going to have some free giveaways on free information, free videos, ways to be able to sign up to be able to speak to me and my team on it. Or if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, you always can at scott@royallegalsolutions.com, or my phone number, 512-757-3994. That'll get you in touch with my staff, and we can schedule a time to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the surprise, and I hope the listeners really take advantage of that, because I know I will.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Again, thanks for being on the show. Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. We'll see you guys in the next episode. And remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.